it can make money during the boom period. Your capability is proven when you perform during an economic downturn, according to Neha Hiranandani, director of Hiranandani Group. She liberally quotes her father Surinder and uncle Niranjan Hiranandani during an exclusive interview with the Indian Urban Infrastructure Review. For a second-generation entrepreneur, Neha has her act cut out, and the lessons that she has learned from her childhood tell on her understanding of the business. Most strikingly, she says big developers are flooded with money when the going is good, and as an entrepreneur, she has learned from her illustrious uncle and father that saying no to excess capital is important. In this edition of Close Encounters, Neha Hiranandani speaks candidly on issues facing the industry, her concerns, and her ability to pull it off in a man's world of real estate.
According to you, what is the biggest challenge for entrepreneurship in real estate? Especially to do with development.
Well, development is one of those unique industries which is still very promoter driven. Professionalization is something that has taken place in the industry with the advent of FDI and the opening up of the real estate sector to organized capital. But by and large, if you look at the landscape of the real estate industry, whether it is India or whether it is overseas, it's still a very promoter-driven industry. You have your organized professionals, your CFOs and your business development heads, but that main drive continues to be individual entrepreneurs, whether it is first generation, second generation or third generation.
So what would the major challenge lie? Where will the major challenge lie?
Well, actually, I think in terms of major challenge, that in it of itself poses the major challenge. Being a promoter-driven industry, because I have now access to so much capital, whether it is foreign direct investment or whether it is banking, convincing the other guy that yes, despite the fact that we are family-run, we are promoter-driven, we are a professional organization, we have audit norms, we have MIS, we have transparency, and the nature of the industry has become a challenge. So much bureaucracy in this country. From day one, you're buying a parcel of land, you have to approach n number of agencies, whether they are state agencies, whether they are municipal agencies, or whether they are central agencies.
Okay.
The bureaucracy becomes so tiresome. It's not such an easy game. It's not that you identify a parcel of land, you raise capital, and within a few months, you start churning. You're ready to go to the market.
True.
It's you buy the land. If you're lucky, your approvals will come within a year. If you're lucky, the government won't change zoning or won't change rules, so all your previous assumptions will continue. If you take the example of FDI, how many times has that changed since it has come?
Sure.
We've had a clarification, and we've had a clarification on the clarification, and that process continues. So the biggest challenge is when you buy a parcel of land from day one, from identifying the parcel of land to taking it to fruition, taking the project to fruition. Your business plan cannot in this environment stay constant. You have to evolve, you have to keep changing. If the government changes its mind, you've got no choice. We can't go and fight the government. You have to evolve the business plan. If I've got an FDI partner, he has to evolve with me. He doesn't have a choice, I don't have a choice.
That's what usually the foreign players often tell us, that the inconsistency in policy is the biggest challenge, because in most of the developed world, the policy is already set, and it's been there for ages. In India, we are still trying to learn the ropes. So when you tie up with a foreign partner, what do they actually expect from you?
Well, the minimal expectation is what is the level of risk. Any partner who comes in wants to understand what is the level of risk. They will usually identify it. You have, of course, your market risk, you have approval risk, and you will have developer risk. So in terms of course, market risk and developer risk are something that are individual to each project and to each developer. But government risk is something that is common to all of us. Their whole focus coming into the project would be, how do I minimize my government risk?
Yes.
That is something, as a developer, that's what we have to help them answer.
And how about, there are developers who would say that acquisition of land is not as difficult as approvals. When it comes to approvals, you can never know how long it will take. What's your opinion on that?
I disagree. I think both are very, very risky games. Acquisition of land, if in this country, every state is like a different country in terms of land laws. In different states, you have to overcome different challenges when it comes to land acquisitions, and we've seen so many times. That's the nature of democracy, right? I mean, you can't force somebody to leave their land and to pass it on to you. Even if somebody is sitting on 2 square feet of land in your 110-acre land parcel, you have no choice. You have to convince him to Raising money in this industry has always been a challenge. I mean, if you talk to my father, he would say, you guys have it easy now. In the 80s and 90s, it was miserable. It was in fact impossible to raise money. Today, the challenge in raising money is the credit risks are high, the credit checks are higher, which may not necessarily be a bad thing. If you look at the way Western markets have fared, our banks and our systems are looking far smarter. The conservatism has helped. The key is, of course, the balance. How far are we willing to go to restrain capital and excessive capital in the market, and how much of a rein are we willing to give to allow the industry to grow and flourish?
Being a young, the second generation entrepreneur and being so young, would you also approve of raising money in abroad much more than raising money here in India, especially in London Stock Exchange or Singapore Stock Exchange?
No, I think everything has their pros and cons. I think domestic players are probably far more aware of the intricacies of the Indian market.
Okay.
It's much easier to explain the government risk, as we talked about, to an Indian investor or somebody from India who's putting in money, rather than me trying to explain it to a risk committee sitting in Manhattan. So that there are risks and rewards in both cases. Of course, the flip side of that is the ability to raise money abroad is far superior. You have, whether it's the Middle East or whether it's pension funds or whatever, your access to capital is far greater overseas. But then there's that flip side. The understanding of the market is not as good. We also don't have that many opportunities. Take for example REITs. The government has been talking about REITs, and we've not seen anything. We've seen a couple of working papers, and that's it. Somebody who wants a REIT, they have no choice. You have to go to the Singapore Stock Exchange Absolutely. Or the London Stock Exchange. You don't have that option only here.
Correct. When I started my career, we used to write about REITs. It's still not come.
Nothing yet, yeah.
How different will you be as a second generation entrepreneur from your father's generation?
How different will I be? Or how will I be different?
How will you be different? Okay.
Well, I think the biggest mistake I could make would be not to take the lessons that my father would have learned in his years in the industry. He has a thing. He says, any idiot can make it when the market is good. You've got to, you know that you are good if you can make it through the bad times.
True.
To make it through the bad times, I would have to learn from his experiences. Ignoring that would be very fatal for me.
Can you give me 3 examples of that kind of a mistake that you would assiduously keep away from?
Over-leveraging.
Okay.
Over-leveraging is something that we've seen the bad sides, the negative aspects. It becomes a very vicious game.
especially during a downturn.
Especially during an upturn, everybody is willing to flood capital into your company,
Sure.
And it becomes very difficult to say no. And the ability to say no is what
You need to learn.
is what the lesson, that's the lesson that I should
Before
be taking.
Inox,
Where was the coffee? I mean, there was no coffee day in the commercial hub of our
But
city.
is that not because of bad town planning?
It has a lot to do with bad town
There's
planning.
not a decent restaurant over there.
The advantage that we have, exactly, the advantage that we have is, we have the space to create facilities and amenities to cater to our customers. We've been able to provide the large footpaths, we've been able to provide the high street retail because we have access to those things. You see that in most parts of Bombay, you will come across extremely poor
How
town
much do you
planning.
think will the new land titling bill help developers like you? Because now the government has put up the bill for debate and discussion. How do you think that's going to help? How different will life be?
Well, if it works, if it is implemented, then it will make at least one aspect of our business far easier. The land title risk is, again, it's a huge problem today. There are insurance companies that will cover you for title risk. There's a reason you don't see them in the Indian landscape. There's just simply too high a risk. Anybody can go and lodge a litigation, even if he has nothing to do with that land parcel, and he can temporarily
Stall the project.
Yeah. Having something like that in your hand, where you have clarity on the title, that is going to make life, at least one aspect of life, much easier.
Okay.
Well, we've still got a lot of government risk, so that is still something that we have to continue to combat.
But then in a seminar of CII, developers were saying that just because of computerization and getting all these modern technology, the titling issue does not get resolved.
No,
because
it doesn't.
It's documentation which is more important. It's
You're
not
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. What computerization can do is help better identify the gaps in title. What the situation that you have today, if you're going to buy, if you're going into a greenfield project, I can't go to a computer and say, this is a survey number, please show me all the land title documents that are available, and then I will evaluate my risk whether I want to purchase this parcel of land or not. You have to dig and dig, you have to go into archives, you have to put, this, you have to do public notice, etc., etc., and still you are not sure whether you've got a handle on the documents. Is there something I'm missing? So what it will help is, it will help to the extent that you can evaluate the risk associated with that land parcel better, more easily.
Okay.
But it's not going to clear the title for us. I don't think that that's what it proposes to do either. That's not the bill.